This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
Do you play FanDuel and feel like you aren't creating consistent money-making lineups? Go over to the DFS Doctors on Twitter at the DFS Doctors and DM them with promo code Detroit Sports to get a free trial for their analytically formulated 70% lifetime profit rate NFL and NBA lineups. The whole purpose of playing daily fantasy sports is to get out there and compete and give yourself a chance to win. So go over to the DFS Doctors. Let them help you. They have analysts on staff that look at the best optimal lineup that you can put out there to win money. So why not take advantage? At the DFS Doctors, promo code Detroit Sports.
CBD is a game changer sweeping the nation. This hemp extract is the natural way to elevate your mood, eliminate aches and pains, reduce anxiety, and keep you sleeping all night long. It can even cut your workout recovery time in half. Get in the game today with 20% off all orders of CBD and lavender products from Lavender Lane, a lavender farm located right here in Milan, Michigan. Just go to lavenderlanemi.com today and enter coupon code Detroit for 20% off your entire order. Guys, look, these amazing products are infused with calming lavender to maximize their effectiveness, meaning your CBD items only take minutes to take effect, which is way quicker than those pills you were about to swallow. On top of it, they are perfect for men and women. Lavender Lane has lab-tested CBD creams, tinctures, and roll-ons that are perfect for any situation, even if you're on the go. Put your health back in your hands by heading over to lavenderlanemi.com and entering coupon code Detroit for 20% off your entire order of CBD and lavender products. What do you have to lose? Your satisfaction is guaranteed or your money back. So if you need lavender gifts for your loved ones or just looking for the natural way to ease your discomfort with CBD, go to lavenderlanemi.com and use coupon code Detroit to unlock these miraculous benefits of CBD and lavender. That's lavenderlanemi.com. And remember, use coupon code DETROIT for 20% off your CBD and lavender products from Michigan's own Lavender Lane.
I was trying to get it how I live. I want them dead presidents. I want to pull up, head spin, get it, get flat. I got 6 jobs, I don't get tired. I don't get tired. I don't get tired.
And we are still not tired on this week's episode of Two Bad Hombres. I am your host, Vito Geronimo Church, alongside my usual sidekick and partner in fun. That is Doc from Doc and Jock, John Charles Macaroon. John, it's been the longest time, man, since I've been able to say that to you in person here in the lovely Sterling Heights studios. How are you doing, man?
Vito, this has been probably the weirdest week of covering sports in a long time, and a tragic week. And, you know, as the week progressed, it was tough because I'm a huge fan of the Super Bowl. I love the week of the Super Bowl. I love the coverage. I love the everything that surrounds the Super Bowl, the interviews, media day. But this year, I just found myself really kind of saddened and just kind of putting things in perspective with the news last Sunday. And I can share my experience in regards to how I found out about Kobe Bryant's tragic death. It was my sister's birthday, and I'll never forget it because I was sitting down. I was about to have some Lebanese food. We ordered Lebanese food for her birthday. We were sitting down, and I got the alert. I saw the tweet. I saw the photo. I clicked on it. I saved it. It came out at 2:24, exactly in the afternoon Eastern time. Right, Vito? So what I did was I screenshotted it, and I have it here on my phone. It's right here. I have the photo where it says, killed in helicopter crash, everyone else on board dead too. And it's taken at 2:26. So I look at that, and I'm like, that's not real. Because this is also coming on the heels of some hacks of Twitter pages, you know, in regards to the NFL. Certain NFL Twitter pages have been hacked in the last week, and I didn't believe it. So I sit there and I'm going on, and I obviously when you hear news like that or you come across a tweet, you start scrolling through Twitter, and I hadn't seen it yet for like 4 minutes. And for those that don't know, that aren't really in depth with Twitter, the algorithms sometimes take 4 or 5 minutes for a tweet to be seen by the masses. That's usually the case in situations. So I waited, and then I went to the search bar and I typed in Kobe helicopter, and people started recognizing the tweet from TMZ about 4 or 5 minutes later, and they're like, is this real? And it didn't hit me until more and more people are like, yeah, it's real. It's real. So January 26th is a day that I'll never forget now. It's my sister's birthday. It's also Dan Miller's birthday from Fox 2. He was celebrating, and we were celebrating at my sister's house. And to hear the news, we all were shocked. And I think the part that was more gut-wrenching for a lot of us was the fact that as the news progressed and more information came out, you started to hear that, oh no, potentially some of his family members could have been on it. And then ABC erroneously came on the air, and one of the reporters came, in a phoner and said, it's believed that all of Kobe's children are on the plane, and it was devastating because you then started doing the math. Oh my gosh, Kobe and 4 girls, all gone. And, you just started to look for information. And then unfortunately, I don't like to do the whole thing where you go, I waited till a credible source, said something. I don't believe in that. But once you saw Adrian Wojnarowski, ESPN, CNN, Fox News, all confirming it, it's shocking. It's one of those situations where I can relate in that I felt that way before when Payne Stewart died, because he was a golfer I followed. I liked his story. He was someone that, was a golfer that I found to be very interesting and creative with the way he wore his pants. And you can look that up, Payne Stewart and how he conducted himself. And unfortunately, he died in a tragic private plane crash where the plane lost pressure and it just went missing. And unfortunately, what happened was the plane depressurized and it just flew on until it petered out and then it crashed. So that was tragic. I watched the Daytona 500 when Dale Earnhardt died in the accident. I was in college. That happened when I was at Michigan State. I watched that event live. So you harken back to tough stuff like that, but man, Vito, that was tough. And then this week, sports hasn't been the same. Obviously, my passion for football and writing and covering and podcasting is still there, but it just doesn't seem the same when a guy 41 years old, just transitioning from a playing career, passes like that, and especially with this 13-year-old daughter who was poised, by all accounts, to be a basketball legend. She was going to take after her dad. She was passionate, and you started to see all the videos in the past, and I watched probably too much. And as a dad of 2 girls, you get sensitive to that kind of stuff where you're like, man, I hope and pray that nothing ever happens to my kids, because I would go crazy and I would lose it all. I wouldn't be as composed as I am most days. But this week for me has been really tough in the sports world because of the fact, you think about it, like what were his last moments like? A guy that, it could happen to anybody. And a guy, for me, I'm terrified of planes. I just went on 2 plane rides this year, and I was, quite frankly, I had to take Xanax to get on it. I can't shake the notion of, hey, I'm a dad. I'm the last macaroon in the generation. I don't want to go that way. And it can happen. Now, definitely it's safe to ride in planes, but if the one time something happens, I'm a goner. And I don't want to go that way. So that's why, probably for this decade, I ain't going in no plane. I'm driving all over the place. But that's here nor there. It was a tragic week. Where were you, and how did you experience the death of an NBA legend in Kobe Bryant?
So I was at the Legacy Center Sports Complex for my job, Legacy Football, for an event over the weekend. And on Sunday, it was a Midnight Madness 7v7 tourney at Legacy. All these teams. Football teams specifically, yes. So all these teams from all over the Midwest, from Canada, north of the border as well, Missouri, Illinois, you name it. So everybody was having fun, and then people started spreading the word that Kobe had died. And people were looking side-eyed, freaking out, trying to figure out, is this really true? People thought it was a hoax. We all thought it really was a hoax. People then kept looking at their phones, trying to dig up more info, trying to find out more to make sure it was credible. This report from TMZ, as you said, John, TMZ first reported it. And then I heard or saw somebody say that TMZ, the site itself, was down. So I thought, it is a hoax. Somebody had hacked into it and created this story just to mess with TMZ in the world. And I say the world because Kobe Bryant was a world icon. He was a transcendent basketball player and star that was bigger than basketball. He had already transitioned into a career past basketball. He had won an Oscar, remember, for a documentary called Dear Basketball. So he became bigger than basketball, was already carving out a path for himself to make a legacy in something else and make a bigger impact on lives than just through his playing career. His 20 years spent with one organization in the LA Lakers, in which he won 5 NBA titles, won an MVP, I believe multiple finals MVP awards as well. So an incredible, outstanding, Hall of Fame caliber career that makes him one of the best all time to lace up the sneakers. And you look at all the stats and accolades that he garnered, ones that I already mentioned, ones that he garnered specifically for the Lakers. All the Lakers records he accomplished. All of that added up, he's the greatest Laker of all time. But when I speak of this matter, this situation, which ensued on Sunday, this tragic helicopter crash, it's about more than just Kobe the basketball player. It's about a 41-year-old father and his daughter losing their lives, and everybody else as well that lost their lives, 9 individuals in totality. And it made it worse for me hearing about his 13-year-old daughter, Gianna, dying as a result of this horrible helicopter crash. Because when you have a young child pass away, you know what? We all can say it. She never got to live a full life and realize all her dreams. And from all accounts, John, as you said already yourself, she was a star in the making, man. She had a great career in basketball and probably so many other things ahead of her. She might have, gone to UConn. She loved UConn basketball. She loved Trae Young. Trae Young was her favorite basketball player, reportedly. She was a hoopster. She was a baller. She was a star in the making. And Kobe Bryant loved her, loved all his daughters, loved his wife, Vanessa, was a family man and a girl dad that devoted his life after basketball to helping out others and to improving the game of women's basketball. He was really a brand ambassador for that sport. He was trying to build up the reputation, the credibility, you name it, of women's basketball as a whole. So I feel bad for all the little girls, all the women out there too, that had him as a mentor, a guy to look up to, and for advice, but also for continuing to build the brand of women's basketball and on a world stage. So women's basketball and so many different basketball players, men's players too, will never be the same because of this loss. And then also he was so transcendent as an athlete that he impacted people in so many different professions as well. Athletes from a variety of sports, such as NFL players, collegiate athletes in a variety of sports. So a lot of players looked up to him and garnered a lot of quality lessons from his hardcore work ethic, from his relentlessness and Black Mamba mentality. And people in the world as a whole will never be the same because of the loss of Kobe Bryant this past Sunday subsequently. And once again, because of the death of his daughter and everybody else that ended up passing away because of that horrific helicopter crash.
Yeah, tough stuff, Vito, all the way around. And we're going to get some further insights from the host of the Lockdown Pistons podcast, Matt Schoch. I definitely want to get a sense of where he was, the impact, what he was actually at the Palace when I believe the Pistons took on the Cavaliers, and he took in the game, and he was there to see how the Pistons honored. Unfortunately, it wasn't a good game against the Cavs. It was a very challenging game, albeit. Look, if you're a fan of the Pistons, it's a good
luck if you're a fan of the Pistons. I'll just say that right now.
It's a good thing because I think everybody that's following the Pistons is all aboard the team tank situation. So we'll talk to Matt and get a sense of what he observed there from LCA right after this.
And it is Matt Schoch on the line with us from the Lockdown Pistons podcast. Matt, how are you doing?
What's going on, guys? How's it going?
We're doing well, but we could be doing better. And there have been brighter and more positive days, especially in the landscape of basketball worldwide. Losing an icon on this past Sunday in the form of 41-year-old former Lakers legend Kobe Bryant. And it was tragic. Nobody saw it coming, obviously. A helicopter crash. And was reported at 2:30 approximately Eastern Standard Time on Sunday afternoon. And I think when people saw it, Matt, people just didn't believe it and didn't want to believe it, more importantly. And then we had to accept it. How tough was it for you learning of the news of Kobe Bryant's tragic passing?
Yeah, it was really tough. I'm 37 years old, so I've seen his whole career, really. I mean, all the way back into high school when you started hearing about Kevin Garnett going straight from high school the year before, and that there was going to be a perimeter player that was going to go straight to the league, and he was a guy that I was really drawn to as a player when he played. I was a big Shaq fan when I was a kid. The Pistons were kind of down at that time in the Grant Hill era, and even prior to that. So I just kind of gravitated towards Shaq, larger than life guy. And then, of course, he ends up in LA with Kobe, and they become a little bit of the villain, especially here in the Detroit area, where that kind of team and that kind of glitz and glamour maybe wasn't really accepted as much by the basketball fans. And of course, there was the rivalry later with the going to work Pistons meeting in the 2004 finals. So Kobe was a guy that I really rooted for. And he was a guy that was very polarizing as a player. Obviously, I think that, as time went on, he retired and he went on to a positive post basketball career that I think a lot of people were drawn to him over the last several years. But as a player, there was a lot of people who obviously rooted against him. And I was not one of those people. I was one of the defenders of him and everything. But I think I was still also self-aware about his place in the game and self-aware about the fact that, there was some ball hogging and selfish play and stuff like that. I enjoyed the entertainment value of it. I don't know that I would endorse it as far as the correct way to play basketball night in and night out, but I just enjoyed watching. I thought it was pure entertainment. I think back a lot of those ABC Sunday afternoon games where you knew the Lakers were going to be on, whether it was against LeBron or whoever else. You knew that the purple and gold would be on at Staples Center, and it was always an event. So, all that said, so many hours and so much time that you spend watching this guy and arguing about this guy with friends, and then to have him be gone. And then, of course, you make your own personal connections of those times and maybe what's going on in your life that make you think about, the mortality of it all and all those dark thoughts that anyone has when you're confronted with death with either someone in your life or someone that feels like they're in your life, like a big time athlete like that. So that was kind of all the thoughts we had. And I can imagine, just like me, that you guys were probably, all over the map in terms of all those things as well, right?
Oh my God, we were. And then you hear of his daughter passing away, his 13-year-old daughter, and, 7 other individuals. So 9 in totality died as a result of this helicopter crash. And I was working on Sunday, and you probably were, and maybe were with your family. And, with that being said, where were you, Matt, when you heard of the news of the passing of these 9 individuals as a result of this totally horrific helicopter crash?
Yeah, so actually I was out to lunch on Sunday afternoon with some of my best friends, and we were out celebrating my buddy's 40th anniversary or 40th birthday. So, obviously we hear about Kobe halfway through lunch, and we're all checking our phones, and then the rumors about what's going on. Of course, at first you assume that maybe it's wrong and that there's been some misreporting. It's obviously such a shocking and strange story from the very outset that you have a little bit of skepticism, of course, given this media environment and the suddenness of everything too. But then you come to realize that more and more outlets are going with it. And then, like you said, learning about his teenage daughter who had such a bright future in the game of basketball. And then you kind of figured as things went on that there was going to be more souls. And then we heard the next day we heard that day that it was 9 and like you guys know. So yeah, it was a terrible thing to deal with. And it became, we were just 10 of us probably sitting around a table, or maybe 15 of us, or even, and we're all having laughs and cracking jokes like anyone would with their longtime friends for all those years. And then suddenly, it just kind of turns from, and we're the type of people that are inappropriate and we'll make jokes about anything. But of course, this is just not something that's at all that nature, even for a group of, immature friends like me and my friends are. So it just hit everyone really hard. A lot of the guys I was with, we had their kids with them at the lunch, or they were, young parents of young children. So it's just a universal thing of sadness and of really deep personal reflection. And I think it's going to be a thing that kind of sticks with us for a long period of time. And I know that I'll certainly never forget Kobe Bryant, but I think it's just kind of, it's interesting because now he becomes one of these people that obviously left us way too soon. So, you know, all these, the musicians that died when they were 27 and all that, and all these people who died way too young. He's just going to be one of those people. And it's just strange to, in the few days after it, the aftermath that we're dealing with here, it's strange to put yourself in that place that Kobe Bryant's among one of these people that like Prince and Michael Jackson and all the people that died too young. And we got to put Kobe on that list now. And it's a really kind of a heartbreaking idea.
Subsequently, we've seen all the tributes across the NBA, even across the world in the world of soccer, people that were honoring and paying their respects to Kobe Bryant. In the world of the NBA, you started to see that the players on the teams that had to play, they were forced to play on Sunday, took 24-second violations and then subsequently 8-second violations to honor the two numbers in the jerseys that he wore. You were at LCA on Monday when it was the Pistons and the Cavs. Set the scene. What was it like being there to see how the Pistons honored Kobe Bryant in his memory?
Yeah, I was actually there as a fan. Like my buddy had some nice tickets, and whenever we do these things, obviously we kind of get down to our seats halfway through the first quarter or something like that. But we were down there 15 minutes before the game because we didn't want to miss any of this stuff. Obviously, as people who appreciated Kobe throughout his career. But yeah, I mean, I thought the Pistons did a pretty nice job. They had the video, and you know how big the LCA board is, so it's any kind of video is a big deal there in downtown Detroit. So Mason introducing Kobe Bryant in December of 2015 when he made his final trip to Detroit at the Palace. So they kind of just replayed that introduction where Mason went through the whole laundry list of accomplishments that Kobe Bryant had, and a very poignant moment that was for sure. And then a really nice rendition of the national anthem by some Rock financial employees. I think it was the group that does their singing at their events for that group. And then you could see when they started to turn the lights off for the anthem that the Pistons had taken their warm up attire off that they were wearing. So, and I could kind of tell from afar, even though it was across the court, that they were wearing all the Motor City black and silver jerseys with the 24s and 8s, and you could tell that it said Bryant on the back. And it was one of those things where you stand up and you watch that, and I'd watched all the coverage, I'd listened to all the podcasts, I did like what everyone else did over Sunday night and into Monday before that. But for something in me, because I wasn't at shoot around, I didn't interview a lot of the players on Monday, so the fact that I was live at an event where this was being acknowledged publicly really was the moment that it kind of set in for me that this was a thing that actually happened and not something that I was just talking to people about. So that was kind of a strange moment for me, a little bit emotional as well. So yeah, they did that. And then a moment of silence, 24 seconds before the game started, which everyone, and it's strange to be in a place like that where, you know, I don't know if there was 15,000 people or whatever, how many people were in the arena at that time, probably less. But it's strange to be in Little Caesars Arena with that many people, with how loud that place gets, with how loud the acoustics are, the audio that they play. And you could literally hear a pin drop. And it was another poignant moment. It was strange. It was a strange night. But, you know, once the basketball started, I got to admit, it wasn't really on my mind. I wonder about the players. Were they thinking about it during the game, or was it just a situation where they're kind of overcome over the last day and a half and it was maybe tough to play because you saw some ugly basketball, certainly with the Pistons and around the league as well. So, yeah, I mean, it was very poignant moments. I thought the Pistons did a good job of putting it all together. I'm not really sure why I'm like the one person who has this opinion that I think that the NBA should have continued playing the Clippers-Lakers tonight as we tape this there on Tuesday. I thought it would have been kind of a perfect moment to do all the tributes and celebrations. And I understand it's hard to play and it's hard for the team employees to do their job. But I just feel like a couple of days later, that people would have been ready for it. And that it would have been a nice get by your TV and think about Kobe and talk about Kobe with your family. I know it's a late game on a Tuesday night, but to me, that would have been a perfect situation. And but certainly we'll go into Friday and watch that game and see how it all transpires.
And Matt, you know what pained me the most was the faulty reporting on behalf of ABC News, especially them, others, reporting that all the Bryant daughters had passed away as a result of that horrific helicopter crash. And it really speaks volumes about the state of the media and the credibility of journalists, or lack thereof, because of shoddy reporting like that at times that we see. I mean, a day like Sunday damages the name of credible journalists, even, yourself perhaps, or others that do a great job. You write for the news, but it just leads to that narrative even more about, these journalists don't really have their facts, or spreading fake news. And it was ugly for me to see that ensue on Sunday when it was a life or death matter. And when it is, I strongly believe, and I bet you agree with me, Matt, that you gotta have the facts simply first. And if you don't report it. Not when it relates to life or death.
Oh yeah. I mean, absolutely true. And I absolutely agree with that. But I will say this though, with the current media landscape, I mean, there's so many different avenues of where people get their news from. You guys know, as a podcast and kind of a growing business yourself, that's not a traditional one, that's not ABC, CBS, Fox, the two newspapers and the three radio stations that talk about stuff. So there's just so much competition. And like you said, I mean, a lot of us I do the Locked On Pistons podcast, but there's not a team of people that put that together. That's just me doing that. So everyone's trying to be first. And I understand that to some extent, but like you said, there's absolutely no excuse for it. You try to do the best you can, but you have to be right. And especially when it's a life or death situation. I've made mistakes as a journalist. There's no doubt about that. Certainly not to this magnitude, and not really in a life or death situation either, but I'm sympathetic to people that make those mistakes. I'm not saying it's okay, and I'm not saying that it's excusable, but for people's careers to be irreparably damaged at this point, that would be tough to swallow as well. And obviously I'm sure that the people, or a small handful of people that made those mistakes, were remorseful and feel terrible about it. And the other thing is that we don't really exactly know where that people got their information. It could have been maybe some authorities that were inaccurate at first. I mean, they probably wouldn't throw their sources under the bus in that way, but we don't really know exactly what happened. So as a member of the media, I kind of, in these situations, am a little bit more sympathetic to the media people than your average person is. And again, I'm not making excuses for it. I'm not saying it's right, and I'm not saying it's okay to be fast instead of correct. But we don't really kind of know the circumstances behind some of those things. And obviously it's an embarrassing moment that's going to go with their careers for however long their careers last, if they're still going to last after this. So yeah, it's sad and it's unfortunate, but as far as the whole story, and I know that the TMZ takes a lot of heat, especially when the authorities and the cops were talking about how it's unfortunate and really sad, and that some of Kobe's family found out about it from TMZ. Very sad and very unfortunate. But again, that's kind of one of the realities of being this mega famous person, that there's a lot of great things that come along with being Kobe Bryant throughout his 41 years of life. He's earned all of them, and he rightfully should get all those things. But unfortunately, this is kind of some of the bad that comes along with it. And his family has, in a heartbreaking situation, has to deal with those kind of things. And again, that's unfortunate. But, it's a complicated situation where I can kind of see all sides of it. And I don't know. I mean, it's sad for everyone involved. But of course, the most sad thing being that there's families that are ripped apart. And it's just heartbreaking.
And our thoughts and prayers go out to the families of those 9 lives that were lost as a result of this horrific crash once again. And Matt, really quick, back to Kobe, and I'll leave you with this. What do you believe is the long-lasting legacy of Kobe Bryant?
I think it's the hard work and the discipline and the single-minded focus. I think that's like what you think about, Mamba. I know that myself and a lot of people say it a little bit tongue-in-cheek because it is a little bit of a punchline at times, but just the fact that the amount of effort and work and off-season stuff and adding things to his game and taking care of his body 24/7 and being single-minded and focused on his task and his job and his game is something that I know that I don't emulate in my work life. And I don't really think I know anybody who's that focused on things. And it's a mentality and a lifestyle that, not a lot of us can put up with on a 24/7 basis like he was able to. That was his image. There was obviously mostly truth to that. We'll never know for certain what he was like all day, every day. But that was the proof was in the pudding with how he performed. 20 great seasons of NBA basketball, championships, MVP, all that stuff. And I think we can all take something from that way that he lived his life, and then way he lived his post-playing life as far as everything you read about him, his fatherhood, and just how great he was with his girls, and how precious of he accepted that family life and that family time. So I think that is also something we can all kind of glean from his life.
To replicate what he did in his 41 years of life on and off the basketball floor will be very hard to do. I'll just leave it with that. And Matt, thanks for all of your insight, and just what you had to share today was tremendous, and we appreciate it here on Two Bad Hombres.
Yeah, guys, thanks for having me.
And that was Matt Schoch of the Locked On Pistons podcast, John, with his great insight on the tragic situation that ensued last Sunday with the horrific helicopter crash of Kobe Bryant and 8 other lives, including Kobe Bryant's young 13-year-old daughter, Gianna, who had such a life and full life ahead of her. And it was so promising what she could have accomplished too in her life, both on and off the basketball court.
I think the best way we can do, and Vito, I think the best way we can honor Kobe Bryant's legacy is to keep working hard, keep pushing the network forward, and keep really instilling that mentality of hard work, trying our best, and definitely in the sports world here in Detroit, we can definitely just continue to respect and honor his memory and remember that legends don't die. And hopefully for both of you, and hopefully for both you and I, being that we're very religious, we believe that hopefully there'll be an opportunity one day to brush up against the likes of Kobe Bryant in a different form, in a different life. So again, prayers to the family. It was a shocking, shocking week. It just goes to show you tomorrow is never guaranteed. Live your life, make your plans, tell everybody that you appreciate them, and don't take anything for granted. I know I won't, and I think when things like this happen, sometimes it does put it into perspective, but I think for me personally, I try my absolute best to tell the people that are around me how much I appreciate them, and to give everybody an extra big hug and a high five and a handshake to say, hey, it's a good time to be around, and it's a good time that we have a chance to share this experience, what we call life.
Well, you know what? Don't hold any grudges, too, in life. Shaq and Kobe, I'm glad they made up. I mean, think about that, what Shaq would have felt, John, and anybody that maybe Kobe wasn't friendly with at a certain time. Well, you think about that now. When you think in retrospect about Kobe and his life and the situation that occurred, you think about, the grudges that could have been, that Shaq, specifically could have had with Kobe, but they made up. And it was great to hear all of those great stories. How about those stories that people share too about Kobe after the passing? And so many people spoke glowingly about Kobe as well, and the impact that he made once again, not only on the basketball court, but also off the court.
Thanks, everybody, for downloading the latest edition of Two Bad Hombres. Follow the network at Detroit Podcast. Follow Vito on Twitter at Vito Jerome. Make sure you listen to Matt Schoch and his Locked On Pistons podcast, a daily podcast dedicated to the Detroit Pistons, and also read his great work in the Detroit News. All right, Vito, let's talk soon, and definitely appreciate you being on the network. Everyone have a great weekend. We'll talk soon.
The Two Bad Hombres are Locked On Pistons. Adios.